Let me now come back to storytelling at work, right? Because one thing that I find is once you start to work, you become more rational. You become very I would call it straight jacketed, and storytelling is a little bit loose, right? You feel that, oh, you know what, I just don't think you're coming to the point so easily, right? So therefore, you tend to meander, and therefore, at work, people then get too straitjacketed. They want to actually have an answer to the problem. So, how do you think at work you found storytelling to be of value, and why do you think it's value?
Yeah, no, it's a huge value, right? So stories can clarify better. A good story can clarify better. It can engage better, and it's likely to be more memorable, right? So let me give you, a way of why stories are important, and then how can be. So if you were talking about school and what we learned, right? If I ask you in trigonometry, what is sine theta? Like, I don't remember. And if I ask 100 people, I don't think maybe 10 people might remember, right? If I ask you in which year did the second battle of Panipat happen, very less chance that you will remember. But if I ask you, what is the moral of the hare and the tortoise, fable? Slow and steady wins the race. Like, everybody will remember that very clearly, right? So we remember stories, and that's because we've been dealing with stories as a mode of passing information since millennia. When humans were living in caves at the end of a long tiring day, when you sit around the fireplace, you're not going to be watching Netflix or showing PowerPoint slides, right? You are exchanging stories, but those stories had life-saving information embedded in them. So I will not come back and then say that, hey, here are three lessons from my hunt today. I don't do that, right? I will say, hey, you know what? I went there and then I was climbing, and then suddenly I heard this growl and I went up to the tree and I was hiding there. Then the bear came and went away, and thankfully I was fine and I came back. That's it. Now I am absorbing the lessons from that, right? So we have learned through stories for millennia. So that DNA is always there. Now, at the workplace, yeah, it's not about always meandering and going all around the place. There are some situations where you may want to um, tease the audience, make it a little bit of a mystery. And there are some situations where that works brilliantly, but that's not the only mode of telling a good story, right? So, to me, telling something clearly to the point in a good way is also an example of good storytelling, right? And that is not a skill that everybody necessarily has. Often, people say, I'm going to only tell the facts, but then the facts are told in such a detailed, um, lack of focus way that the audience at the end of it, who's listening, is thinking, "Oh, what is your point? What are you trying to get at?" Right? So even the skill of getting to the point is for me a storytelling skill, and which is where the book that I mentioned, the pyramid principle, and I have a framework called as a 139 framework, where you should be able to communicate anything in a one sentence summary, in three sentences, and then in nine. So you have to prepare beforehand to do that, right? So that to me is a storytelling technique. So even communicating bluntly requires skill, and that is also something that can be done. Having said that, in some situations, everything is not about just getting to the point. You're having a large audience in a town hall, and maybe you want to engage them by talking about a personal anecdote about what happened, or you saw an exemplary um, case of somebody living your company's value, or some employee who did an extraordinary achievement. You want to tell that story, or you want to tell a story of your own life, which where you learned something and you want to be vulnerable. All of those are also examples of stories, and you may not necessarily directly say the point, hey guys, the point of the story is that I'm going to, no, it's, you tell that story and the people will get that point. So that's also a type of storytelling. So I think depending upon the audience, the context, the data that you have, um, the easy and the tough answer is that the tough part of this is you have to innovate and adapt, and know all the tools that are available to you as a storyteller, and use the right tool for the right job context and audience.